So the period of Reconstruction, arguably the most progressive piece in American history for Black folks. 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment all passed during Reconstruction. You had efforts to provide opportunities for freed slaves of African descent. You were supposed to have 40 acres and a mule. You had the creation of the Freedmen's Bank, but you still had resistance to that because America still wasn't interested in black folks being free. And so even when you had this period of Reconstruction where you had what is a group called Radical Republicans who were driving an agenda in the U.S. Congress, you still had Southern Democrats, these Dixiecrats, who were trying to hold on desperately to slavery. The peonage system then followed. You had all of these activities still targeting our people to suppress us, to keep us from being full citizens. You had black men who got the right to vote, but you didn't have black women who got the right to vote because in this country, women still couldn't be able to vote. So you had all these battles going on. Then, of course, you have an election in 1876, contested election, which leads to the Great Compromise of 1877, where the South said, hey, look, we'll let Hayes become president if y'all remove the last federal troops from the last 3 southern states. We promised not to do anything to the freed slaves. We're all good. Obviously, they went back on that. As soon as those federal troops were removed, then they ushered in Jim Crow laws, and that led to 92 years of Jim Crow in this country. You had this period from 1954 to 1970 that some consider the second Reconstruction. Brown versus Board of Education, 1954. Emmett Till is lynched. Beginning of the Montgomery bus boycott, December 1st, 1955, leads to a 382-day boycott. It goes to the Supreme Court, declaring segregated busing to be unconstitutional. You then had the focus on Albany and Birmingham and Selma, the lunch counter sit-ins, Civil Rights Act of 64, Voting Rights Act of 65, Fair Housing Act of 68, affirmative action then instituted with Nixon coming in. And so all these different things developing. So that's a period of 16 years. The first Reconstruction, 10 to 12 years. The second Reconstruction, 16 years. I'm arguing that this should be the third Reconstruction, and it has to last a minimum of 20 years because the third Reconstruction has to contend with what the first and the second did not fully deal with, and that's the money. What do I mean? That's the money. The first Reconstruction, 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, Equal Protection Clause, abolishing slavery except when it comes to prison. Of course, men getting the right to vote, all great and wonderful, didn't deal with the money. Second Reconstruction, Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, fair housing, public accommodations, all those things didn't deal with the money. If you read Dr. King's book, which every person should have a copy of it, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, he is talking about what has to happen economically in this country. Now, when I say what has to happen economically in this country, I'm not having a reparations conversation. Now, there are those who support reparations. We also understand what that is going to require because you got to get 218 votes in the House. You got to get 60 votes in the Senate. You got to get the president to sign the deal. And so you got to go through all that. It has to survive a challenge. And so that's a multi-generational fight that's been going on since the first Reconstruction. But when I say we have to be thinking totally different about this third Reconstruction economically, is how are we changing the existing systems when it comes to the money? So let me unpack that. You are a public institution, correct? Virtually you can nod your head. Which means that the people who work at your institution are public employees, which means that those public employees have pensions, which means that there's a state pension system in Tennessee. Now I want you to ask this very question. And when I say state pension system, that means every public worker in Tennessee is a part of that pension system. City employees, county employees, school district employees, state employees are all part of the Tennessee state pension system. Now, what that means is the money from the Tennessee State Pension Fund is being managed by somebody. Okay? It's called the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System. The money is being managed by somebody. Who is the firm or the firms managing the pension money of Tennessee public workers? That means workers in Memphis. That means workers in Nashville. That means workers in all across the state. What you have to now understand is that Wall Street is largely funded by pension funds. You may say, wait, but hold up. But I thought about, what about the hedge funds? Where do you think they get their money from? The hedge funds the pension funds are investing in the hedge funds. So when people talk about, man, we got to change venture capital because black people are getting 1% of all venture capital dollars, so we got to get the venture capitalists to change the money. No. The venture capitalists are up here. The venture capitalists are getting their funds largely from pension funds. The pension funds are getting the money from being managed in these states, and the money is actually the money of public workers. And so the reality is the money of black and brown people, and also whites, are what's fueling Wall Street, what's fueling venture capital. So we're trying to ask the people, follow me here, who are at the top, we need y'all to start investing in black and brown companies, and 99% of the money they're investing in white folks or non-black and Latino folks. And you're sitting there going, but you're using the money of black and brown people. So what then happens if we then mobilize the people who are at the bottom, the black and brown people whose very money is being used? What I'm laying out to you is that if we analyze the wealth in black America, the one group that collectively holds more wealth than anybody else in black America are public workers. That means the nearly $1 trillion federal pension fund, which is largely controlled by BlackRock, is being fueled. Half of that pension fund is being fueled by black and brown people. And people don't even realize it. I'm talking about a money conversation. Let me further unpack this money conversation. Netflix just announced that they are going to invest $100 million over the next 5 years into diverse content. Support black creators, create bespoke programming, things along those lines. It's $100 million over 5 years. It's $20 million a year. You may say, why is that? Why are they doing that? Because more black people watch television than anybody else. Black content drives their platform. Do y'all know what the market cap of Netflix is? The market cap, meaning the value of Netflix, at the close of business today was $238.65 billion. Let me repeat that. The market cap of Netflix is $238 billion. If you want to buy a single stock of Netflix is $538.85. Let me put this in perspective. The $20 million that Netflix is going to be investing in diverse content, if the $20 million was used to buy Netflix stock, that's 37,000 shares of Netflix. Truth be told, $20 million a year being spent by Netflix is a drop in the bucket. With their market cap of $236 billion. Let me take it. Let me have. I want you to think about this a different way. Netflix is $17.99, right? Let's say there are 1 million. Let's just say, for the purpose of our conversation, there are 1 million black subscribers of Netflix who are paying $18 a month for Netflix. See, I'm going somewhere here. If Netflix has 1 million black subscribers who are paying $17.99 a month or $18 a month, that means that black subscribers of Netflix are spending $18 million a month on Netflix. That means in the course of a year, black subscribers to Netflix are spending $216 million a year to subscribe to Netflix, and Netflix has just announced that they're going to spend $20 million a year on diverse content. So essentially, 1 month, or little over 1 month, of what black people are investing into Netflix, if it's 1 million subscribers, is coming back into diverse content, and that's not all black content. Stars. How many of y'all watch P-Valley? How many of you watched Survivor's Remorse? How many of you watched Ghost? Ghost 2? All the spin-off shows. Stars is building their platform on black eyeballs. Now, who owns Stars? Lionsgate. How many black sits on their board of directors? I know one, Mignon Clyburn. Recent addition. How many black executives are there at Lionsgate? How many black executives are there at Stars? And let me further unpack this. What black PR agencies is Lionsgate and Stars using? How much money do they spend advertising their shows to black media? The productions that are on Stars and Netflix and Amazon Prime Video and Hulu and HBO Max and Paramount, how many of those are using black caterers, black limousine companies, black vendors? See, what I'm trying to get us to understand, that when we talk about reconstruction, that doesn't mean you are constructing one side of the house. When a house is being reconstructed, you are reconstructing the whole house. We are getting excited about announcements that companies are making when we're not actually drilling further down into following all of the money. Now ask yourself, Tennessee, how much is spent annually in your state in contracts? How many are African Americans getting? What's the percentage? What's the dollar number? Are they prime contractors or are they subcontractors? What's really going on with the dollars? See, if you want to understand America, y'all, follow the money. If you come to D.C. and you go to the White House and you stand in front of the White House. What happens is you stand in front of the White House and you see in the White House, and all of a sudden the White House is over here, and then you got a building over here to the left. It's the Department of Treasury. The only federal agency that shares along with the White House is the money. You could literally walk right at the side of the Department of Treasury. You probably walk 100 or 200 steps, and then you be right into the East Wing. Power, White House, Treasury, money. Power, money, money, power. That right there, that explains America all by itself. That connection right there. Right across the street, Treasury is right here. Right across the street, directly across the street from Treasury, the Bank of America. Most of the major banks in the United States have offices that are within a 2-block radius of the Department of Treasury. It's the money. You got to follow the money. What we have to be doing as African Americans is not getting excited when folk make these big announcements. People are like, oh my goodness, did y'all hear that? This company gave $1 million to Black Lives Matter. But how much did they make from black people? How much is being returned? I told y'all April 3rd, 1968, Dr. King gives a speech at Mason Temple in Memphis. It's a 43-minute and 16-second speech. You need to read it. You need to listen to it. And most of y'all have heard it. Most of y'all have heard. Y'all heard the mountaintop part. Y'all heard, oh, I've been to the promised land. I've seen. I may not get that with you, but I've been to. Y'all heard all that. But do y'all know the part America never plays? America never plays the part of that same speech where Dr. King is talking about we've got to redistribute the pain. They don't play the part of that speech where Dr. King talked about economic reciprocity. They don't talk about that part of the speech where Dr. King is talking about how the SCLC opened a bank account with a black bank there in Memphis. They don't talk about that part because now you're dealing with the money. So we're going to have this conversation about the future of Black America. What is our agenda? What should we be focused on? I need y'all to understand, America ain't got no problem with black folks marching against mass incarceration. We out here marching, man, let's get folks out of jail. No, but who is getting paid with them in jail? Who has the phone contract? Who has the food contract? If you do not focus on the money, you can't understand America. So what I want every student to understand is that whether you at Middle Tennessee State, whether you are at some other institution, whether you out there protesting, whether you out there are pushing, where you out there, whatever you're doing, I need you to think differently and deeper and more broadly when it comes to what we are asking and demanding. Coretta Scott King said they killed my Martin when he started talking about the money. So they ain't got no problem with us talking about the money. So how do we now use all of this and all of this stuff we got? I see a member of Phi Beta Sigma. All my Alpha brothers were here. So the question is, how are Kappas and Omegas and AKs and Deltas, and how are the Masons and the Links, and how all these black organizations, how are we now using our collective power to redefine our future? Can you imagine what it would look like? I need y'all to follow me here. Can you imagine what it would look like if a group of brothers in black and gold and blue and white and purple and gold and red and white and crimson and cream and pink and green and brothers with aprons and sisters with their green and the links. Now we can go. Then we got men's church groups and Eastern Star. Can you imagine what would happen if all of a sudden y'all rolled up to the Board of Regents meeting that oversees Middle Tennessee State, and y'all asked the question, we want to know who's managing the pension funds in this state? Are they diverse? What do they look like? Are y'all using black law firms? Are you using black accounting firms? Are you using black management firms? Do you have African Americans who are also investing the very dollars of these public workers? Now all of a sudden they're like, oh, they done figured out what the deal is. They are coming to ask about the money. Same thing is happening. The federal government, $1 billion is spent every single year on media advertising, and black media gets 1%, 10 million out of the 1 billion every single year. There is money in them hills. There is money that is being traded and spent every single day in this country. And it's just flying over our heads because we are not demanding a different view of equity. You should be demanding and asking on your campus, how much money is being spent by Middle Tennessee State every single year? What's the percentage of black students at Middle Tennessee State? Anybody got the number? Put it in the chat for me, please, so I can see it. And then I want to know, what are we spending? Who is it going to? What contracts are being going out? Who controls the food services contract on your campus? Who controls the janitorial contract on your campuses? Who controls the legal work, the outside law firm that you have? Who are the folks with the Alumni Association? Who's managing the funds of the state? Y'all, what I'm talking about is, I'm talking about the money. If we are going to have a real conversation about the future of black America and where we stand in the state of our union, we have got to deal with the money. We've got to deal with the reality of where we are right now. And that only can happen. It can only happen when we have folk who are not afraid to question and challenge people, not afraid to get in folks' face. What I'm laying out to all of you is that whether you're at Middle Tennessee State, whether you're at the University of Tennessee, whether you're in Nashville or Memphis, whether you're in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, no matter where you're from, what I'm laying out to you is exactly the fundamental problem that we're seeing all across this country. We are being completely shut out of the economic process in this country, and here we are in 2021 being excited when we see somebody black on TV, somebody in the White House, somebody in the U.S. Senate. But we're not simply saying it's not what you're doing while you're there, how you changing the dynamic. Are you actually flipping the script, not just for you to get paid, but how are you using your power, your influence, and your leverage to impact power? Power means those who are in control. Okay, there's power, there's influence, leverage, power. You may not own it, but you might have major influence and leverage. Will Smith does not own the movie studio, but because he is one of the biggest movie stars in the world, he has significant influence and leverage. How is he using his influence and leverage to get power to do what he decides? Guess what? You live in a Republican state. They control the legislature, but you still have power because you leverage your influence, because you can start asking, where's our pension money going? Who's managing it? What has to happen is for this generation, you, all of you who are listening, you to begin to say, we're going to pick up where King was, and we're going to start talking about the money. And we're going to start demanding equity when it comes to the money. And we're not going to be happy with a few people getting paid. We're going to be asking across the whole area a 360-degree view of the money. Not slices, not you got a contract. But I want to know, are we supporting black businesses and black economics in this area, this area, this area, this area, this area? We start doing that, it changes overnight. We just got to have people who are willing to be economic, social justice, freedom fighters. America has, listened to me clearly, America never liked black folks demanding freedom. But America has never had a problem with us demanding stuff that didn't cost much. King wrote in that book, Where Do We Go From Here? It hasn't cost America much to allow us to go to parks, to sit in hotels, to eat at lunch counters. He said, but now are they prepared for the bigger check? And the bigger check, he was talking about allowing us to participate in that economic engine called the American dream. Folks, don't be satisfied because one black person gets a contract. Don't be satisfied when you see one black movie. Don't be satisfied when we see somebody black win an Oscar. Because you know what? That black person might win the Oscar, but it's somebody else who made $500 million off of their Oscar work. We can't be satisfied. Don't be satisfied ever, because there's too much work to do. Time for questions.
All right, let's give Mr. Roland Martin an MTSU hand. My name is Daniel Green. I serve as the Director of Intercultural and Diversity Affairs here at MTSU. And before we proceed with our Q&A for Mr. Roland Martin, our first questions will be coming from MTSU's National Panhellenic Council. And allow me to share just a few things about them. The National Panhellenic Council is comprised of historically African-American fraternities and sororities on the campus of Middle Tennessee State University, under the leadership of Leslie Merritt, who serves as the Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life. I have witnessed firsthand just how involved MPHC is here on campus and united in participating in community service and philanthropic activities that range from Boys and Girls Club initiatives to Habitat for Humanity projects. And they have collaborated in many ways with my office in leadership programs and social events that both support and improve our campus minority relations. For more information about MPHC and the Director of FSL, Leslie Merritt, you may visit www.mtsu.edu/FSL. With that being said, I now would like to introduce our first video submission question to Mr. Roland Martin from Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority.
Hi, my name is Dakota Simmons. I am a junior at Middle Tennessee State University, and I am a part of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. My question is, since COVID-19 has disproportionately affected African Americans, what resources can be dispensed to lessen the gap between health inequity?
All right, so I'm going to go back to follow the money. if we are disproportionately impacted, if a third of the deaths are black people, if a third of the infections are black people, if 30% of the black people in the medical field, 30% of the people in the medical field who have died from COVID are black, ask for a third of the money. A third of the money. If we're sitting here having a conversation about, all right, you know, this state is going to spend $100 million on COVID awareness, we should be saying, the Black Caucus and the public should be saying, in my state, 30 million should go to black communities. And you should be picking black organizations to manage the money, who know black people, who know how to reach black people. If these states and the federal government are going to be spending money on advertising, have the guts to say, don't send the money to MSNBC. Don't send it to CNN. Don't send to black-owned companies. See, this is where we have to be willing to say it and be unafraid. Follow the money. When you hear that phrase, there goes in them hills, everybody else knows that. They don't mind us talking and having a debate about should we take the vaccine? Who getting paid off the vaccine? What is being distributed? Absolutely. The demand, it should be, look, folks were lining up left and right. This is what we should be doing. Middle Tennessee State, 19% black student-wise. All right, y'all should be saying, we need to understand what's the distribution on this campus. What's being spent? There is no conversation in America that doesn't involve money. That's where we should be doing, making those demands and saying we're being greatly impacted. The resources should be here. You should be saying in Tennessee, we should have targeted programs aligning with black media sources, traveling to black communities, doing pop-up vaccinations. We say, oh, but we don't know. We're not aware of what's my fine. We're going to tell our own people. We're going to do it ourselves. And we can do it beyond just the black church. There are multiple institutions that can do this. Can you imagine if, and I'll challenge all the Greek members in Tennessee. I want y'all to get with your respective organizations, get with Pan-Hell. Daniel, you mentioned Pan-Hell. Pan-Hell should be saying, how many Divine Nine chapters are there in the state of Tennessee alone? How many Eastern Star chapters? How many Prince Hall Mason chapters are there in Tennessee? That's your infrastructure to reach black people when it comes to the vaccine. Next question.
Yes. Our next video submission will be coming from Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Moore, and I'm a member of the illustrious Iota Tau chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I'm also the SJ president at MTSU. My question is, what provisions should current black leaders put in place to benefit the success of future black leaders?
Well, so let's just go ahead and be real honest when we talk about black leadership. The biggest problem with black leadership in the country is that we have people who don't know how to move on. Let me say it again. They don't know how to move on. It's a bunch of folk who got to go. It's a bunch of folk who need to retire. And see, what has to happen, let me also, my wife was a Delta, so I'm just going to shout that out. What also has to happen is that we got to be willing to retire some folk. Let me just unpack that. You live in a city. and the NAACP chapter is grossly ineffective. Guess what? Go in, you join, you find out when's the next election, you find out how many folks voted in the last election, you go out and recruit your own friends to join with you quietly. And then when the election comes, you vote everybody out. You take over the chapter. That's what you do. See, we have to be willing to challenge some people. We got to be willing to throw some folk out of office. We got to be willing to say if they're being ineffective, we got to run against them. And see, there is nobody who's guaranteed a position. Let me say it again. You ain't guaranteed a position. There were a lot of people who were upset Cori Bush ran against Lacey Clay. Guess what? Yes, the Clay family had that was in Congress for 50 years. And I knew Congressman Lacey Clay well. Nice man. But you got to run. She mobilized, she organized, she beat him. What you do? You want to stay? Earn it. You want to stay? Earn it. So we got to be willing to do that. We got to be willing to tell some folks, time for you to go. I am 52 years old. I am not trying to be 70 years old, running around the country doing the same thing I'm doing right now. Hell no. So of course I'm going to do like Moses did with Joshua. Of course I'm going to do what Elijah did with Elisha. I am going to recognize somebody, reach somebody. I am going to connect with somebody and say, I'm going to use my platform to elevate the next generation. I've done that. Who did Angela Rye who put her on TV first? Yodit Tewelde, who put on TV first? Monique Presley, David Swirlick, Paris and Art, Shermichael Singleton, Lauren Coates on CNN. Where did she first fill in hosting on a show? I can go on and on and on. I can name 30 plus people who came through my show. Why is that important? Because it's not about, oh, I want to be the only black person who's commentating, who's bringing, no. When I turn that TV on and I see Paul Butler giving legal commentary on MSNBC, I remember when he was on my show, Washington Watch, in 2010. MSNBC didn't find him, but I was deliberate and intentional in using my platform to create opportunities. Last point. Her question was black leadership. She's with Delta. She got to answer the same question. How are they teaching and training the next generation of Deltas in the chapter to keep it going? My Paul McCrone chapter, Texas A&M. That's what we've always been about. You have peaks and valleys, but same thing. It doesn't make sense to have a strong chapter when you're there, but then they go down when you leave. Great leaders are not defined. Listen to me clearly. Great leaders are not defined how they led when they were there. It's what position they left the organization in when they left. That determines them being a great leader. Next question.
Thank you, Brother Roland Martin. I want to ask a question off of Q&A in the Zoom. comes from Alton Daniels. He has said in the Old Sphinx magazine from 1934, he read that Black folks were more concerned with the trappings of wealth than actually being wealthy. And he had mentioned in the comment about a dollar only spends about 6 hours in the Black community versus 17 days in the white community and 20 days in the Jewish community. And so his question is, what can we do to sound the alarm for Black America and share the message that we must embrace financial literacy, avoid debt, support Black businesses, and value building wealth over wearing designer labels?
So, first of all, that I understand his point. That point about the Black dollar spending 6 hours has actually never been validated. That thing has been like a theme that's traveled and folks like, oh my God, that's actually, like, literally there's nothing that actually has validated that. But I understand his point. And so let me unpack that. What we need, and we try to do this every night with Roland Martin Unfiltered. And let me be clear, I don't give a shit about my critics. I care about none of them. It's simple. And that is, there has to be a massive reprogramming of Black America. Let me say this again. A massive reprogramming of Black America. And you may say what? When I say reprogramming, what I mean is, what are your values? What are your values? We can yell financial literacy all day, but the question is, what do you value? I just in December, I purchased a Mercedes Sprinter that we use for my show. That's allows us to travel. We can live streaming vehicle. We can broadcast from there. We can do all of that. We can do all of that. It was about a month after it was parked in my driveway, and I said, "Damn, this is the first Mercedes I've ever owned." I started laughing. Why did I start laughing? Because I didn't give a damn about having a Mercedes. My worth wasn't determined if somebody saw me driving a BMW. I didn't give a damn what nobody thought. I had a couple of cats when I was at CNN. And they came to work on some stuff at my office in Chicago. And they called a cab to get to the airport. It was taking too long. I said, I'd take y'all to the airport. So we walked outside. The guy was like, I thought you would have had a Mercedes or a BMW. I said, this 4-door Toyota Corolla gonna get your ass to the airport the same way as that BMW and Mercedes. I said, same way. I said, man, let me tell you something. I don't care. I don't need that. I said, I will roll up to a 5-star hotel in a tuxedo, hand the valet these keys and walk in, don't give a damn what nobody else think. I didn't buy that Mercedes Sprinter because I'm trying to sit here and floss and flex and impress somebody. No. First of all, it's a business expense. Y'all listen to me clearly. The $188,000 that I spent on that, it's a tax write-off. Other fools are spending $75,000 on a Mercedes. that they don't get to write off on their taxes. It's a business expense. The usage of it is for business purposes. See, when you don't care what other people think, you ain't living, oh, I got to have this, and this, and this. I ain't never spent $150, $200 for no damn tennis shoes. I would slap the hell out of myself if I ever thought about spending $150 for some damn tennis shoes. Some athletic. I don't give a damn if that shit say LeBron, Wade, Jordan, nobody. I ain't spending $150 to $200 on no damn kicks to make y'all. They done set. Go online to Nagast. I had the people on the show. A black-owned athletic company. You know what this is? The same damn shoe. Do you know what's not on it? Nike, Adidas, Puma, Converse, Reebok. I think these are 65. So if you take your 155, the 100 extra you paying for, because it's going to say Nike. My feet are just as comfortable in these shoes as any other pair of Nikes, Adidas. It don't matter. My value is not in something that I'm walking on. My value is how I'm walking and where I'm walking and who I'm impacting. There has to be a reprogramming of America where we stop making everybody else rich because we are so deprived mentally that we need to wear Versace and Gucci to feel good. Let me tell y'all something right now. I had a bunch of kente cloth outfits made when I was in Ghana. And let me tell y'all something right now. I feel just fine. Rocking one of these as I would some damn Versace, some Gucci, and guess what? I bought the material. I paid a black designer to make them, and that's what happened. See, that label on the outside don't make nothing I wear. Whatever I rock, I make it. That's because this is right. And when this is right, you don't fall for the okie doke. That's what has to happen to Black America. Oh, last point. Same thing. All that bullshit, bling, bling, playing a jeweler. My 30th anniversary gift to myself. Henry Cooper out of Houston. He's an Omega. Has a ring company. That's who made this. I didn't give it to somebody else making them rich. He got paid. Black ring designer. All I'm saying, y'all, this has to change. When this changes, that's when we unlock our freedom.
I have the next question. Mr. Martin, I was wondering, how should Black students, or what steps should Black students take in prioritizing their financial decisions now for their eventual success later?
Everything you do right now with money is going to impact you later on, positive or negative. You should be sitting here thinking right now how you spend your resources, prioritize what your spending is, everything right now. Absolutely. I mean, everything. You should be, and don't use the excuse, well, my parents didn't talk about it. No, you have the opportunity right now. You must, look, you got to break generational curses. You got to break them. Look, we all make mistakes. Ain't nobody perfect. We all go through stuff where we make bad decisions. We get credit cards. We run them up. Now we can't pay them. Now credit score is messed up. Look, I know what that's like. My first job out of college, I applied for a job at the Birmingham News. I interviewed with 16 editors. All 16 editors recommended, let's hire him. Guess what? It didn't happen. You know why? Because in Alabama, they had a state law that allowed them to use your credit score to deny you a job. I was far and wide top student. They were like, yo, we got to hire this dude. But the HR department declined me a job because of my credit score. Ain't a day in my career that I don't let the Birmingham News know how they screwed up. Every time they see me doing something new, I'm like, see, your asses could have had me working there, but you had that archaic law that denied me the opportunity. I've been fighting to change those laws all across the country. We shouldn't be using those laws to keep folk from being able to get jobs. What I'm trying to get you to understand is this here. Start right now changing this. I don't give a damn about no Louboutins. I don't give a damn about no expensive. I don't. Change this. If you start right now looking at your resources differently, you're going to be in a better position. Because see, here's the piece, y'all. Freedom from debt compares to nothing. People who have, and I'm going to use this phrase, don't nobody get offended, fuck you money, when they say really rich people, that's what they call it. You can tell somebody to go screw themselves. But when you don't have debt, you get to make moves that other people are like, what you doing? See, let me tell you what this is debt. That ain't Wakanda. Debt are shackles. Debt are invisible handcuffs. Debt locks you in. Debt, you can't do anything. You can't when you have debt. When you have debt, every decision that you make is predicated on how, if I do this, what's going to be the impact on my financial situation. I know what it's like to file for bankruptcy. My appendix ruptured in 2000, Democratic National Convention, had no health insurance, in the hospital. I incurred nearly $75,000, $80,000 in bills. Filed for bankruptcy, more than about $100,000 in debt. Filed for bankruptcy. I did not have a full-time job. I was freelancing. They were going to wipe out all the debts. I then got a job as the managing editor of the Houston Defender, making $110,000 a year. And they were like, you got to pay all that back. Fine, did that. Got the CNN job that was $250,000 a year. Got the Time Journal job that was $250,000 a year. I paid off the got out of the bankruptcy in 2008. From that, since 2008, I've lived a debt-free life. One credit card, backed up by 2 CDs. So whatever happens, if I can't pay that bill, guess what? They already got $20,000 in CDs taking care of that. The house I have is paid off. My house in Dallas. My parents live in that home. I got 3 generations of my family living in the home that I paid off, which was the very home that I got a foreclosure letter on that precipitated the bankruptcy. So what I'm trying to say is, right now, you should be thinking, as a college student, what's my goal? Debt free. Debt free. When I'm debt free, I can make choices. I manage this company in a very strong, controlling way. We have no debt. So then I have the freedom to say what I want to say because I don't owe somebody. That's how debt free helps you out. Next question.
The next question is, do you think someone that isn't a part of Black Greeks can still make an impact and have
Yes.
the connections in the business world?
Yes. Listen, folks, let me be real clear. Stokely Carmichael said, you cannot show me a single Black person that has had an impact on our culture who has not been a part of an organization. When y'all heard me mention the Greeks, I didn't just mention them. I mentioned Divine Nine. I mentioned the Masons. I mentioned the Links. I mentioned 100 Black Men. I mentioned Ladies of Distinction, Eastern Star. Y'all, there are organizations everywhere. But I can tell you this here. You cannot be a change agent anywhere possible if you are not aligned with an organization. It doesn't matter. You must be aligned with an organization because there's collective power with an organization. So my deal is join something. NAACP, Urban League, I don't care what it is, join something that allows for you to be able to take your passion and your concerns, align it with somebody else, and use it for good. That's what you got to do.
All right, Brother Martin, I have the last question for the night. I want to ask you, what one resource, book, article, magazine can we and should we pick up if we want to start this process of making the third Reconstruction successful?
Very simple, and that is what I said, Dr. King's book, Chaos. Where do we go from here? Chaos or Community. That is the absolute most fundamental book that you read. It is a life-changing, life-defining book. I would add a second book, which is Martin Depp's book on Operation Breadbasket, which of course Reverend Leon Sullivan gave Dr. King the idea, presented to SCLC. They adopted it, and they showed how they use Operation Breadbasket to change things economically for Black folks in Chicago. And so from 1966 to 1971, it's an important book to read. But if I was one book, it is Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community. If you read that book, you literally would think King wrote that book last year and not in 1967. Absolutely. Everybody should have their own. I tell you, I've said this before. I guarantee you, I think I've sold more copies of that book than the members of the King family, because I've referenced that book numerous times over the past decade. That's how powerful that book is.
Thank you again, Mr. Martin, for all of the knowledge that you put on us. And again, we said that we were going to be intentional about changing the progress and changing the trajectory. So I hope everyone is inspired as I am, as my panelists are. And once again, we just want to thank you for coming digitally to MTSU.
Look forward to actually coming to campus in person, seeing folks. And I'm telling you, folks, we have the opportunity to change the game for our community. But the only way that happens if we have committed people who are willing to put something on the line and not be afraid to speak truth to power. And that's what has to happen. And so you free this. I'm telling you right now, the whole game changes. But we have got to reprogram ourselves mentally and not allow white supremacy to continue to define us, to allow white validation to determine whether we're successful or not. And that's what has to happen.
Thank you once again. Thank you also to everyone who joined us today on Onward and Upwards. Keep your head up. Enjoy the rest of Black History Month. Thank you.
Thanks a bunch.